right, good morning, North Penn. I believe we are live if I'm looking at our Facebook page properly. Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Monday morning here, July 25th, right? Yeah, 25th. I'm here
Yes.
with Dr. Todd Bauer, Superintendent, North Penn School District. I'm Bob Gilmer, Coordinator of Communications Media, and we're bringing you the July edition of Superintendent Live. Not sure the name. We're still talking about names, so if anybody has any recommendations for a title for this, you can throw it in the comments underneath here. Welcome, Dr. Bauer. It's been a busy month. We spoke last July 1st. Honestly, it feels like that was like last week. And here we are at the end of the month in July. Lots of things going on here in the North Penn School District. First off, we intend to try to do these after our action meetings each month, so we can give you an update of what happened at the action meeting for that month, and then give you some other updates. So I just want to jump right into, we just had our school board meeting on Thursday night, and some notable pieces I just wanted to talk about. We had some new policies that were first reads at the board meeting on Thursday, and it's a little bit different than what you would normally see. So first one I wanted to ask you about was the new homework policy, and talk about that process and what that means for students.
Yeah, so great question. Good morning, Bob. Thanks for doing this again. We definitely do need a more creative name than Superintendent Live. And it is definitely one of those strange dichotomies, because it feels like we just met last week, but then it feels like it was eons ago as well. So yeah, it's an interesting time of year. So great question. My first meeting presiding as superintendent. I have filled in before for Dr. Dietrich, but this is the first one where I was in that center seat for good, hopefully for a long time. And by all accounts, I think it went okay. Certainly we had some public engagement and some things people want to talk about, but in terms of the business items, I think it went well. So homework policy in particular. So often overlooked or misunderstood, policies and administrative regulations are dramatically different. And in this case, the first reading of the homework policy includes a very basic policy regarding homework. It just essentially gives the authority to the school district and the administrators to assign homework, and authorizes us to set up parameters for homework. So where the rubber really met the road was we spent months working on a homework regulation. And that was also posted to the ECI agenda last month. That is an administrative reg setting expectations for homework across all three levels. And it really delineates, K to 2, 3 to 5, and so on. The ninth grade really more aligns with the high school policy, but it really is hopefully a balance of students practicing and enhancing and enriching, but also understanding that kids have a lot going on, right? And our kids are super involved. They have jobs after school, they have athletics, they have extracurricular activities, they have other interests, and we want our kids to be well-rounded. So I believe, for example, the high school expectation is no more than 2 hours per week per subject on average, recognizing sometimes you're going to go a little over that, right? Because you have a test and you might study for that test or a midterm or a final, but averaging 2 hours per week per subject. And if you play that out, if a student's taking, say, 6 subjects, you're talking 12 hours a week of homework. So that's several hours a night. So we want to try to put some parameters in place and make sure that that homework assignment is refined, and that we're really doing meaningful work when it comes to outside of the classroom.
Excellent. And then another one on there was talking about therapy dogs and service dogs, and there's a difference between the two. And we've been talking about those for a little while. I know it's Safe Schools and policy and ECI, and this was the first reading for our policy on both those issues. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we spent some time preparing these policies, and keeping in mind there's a difference between a service animal, and I believe the actual the law dictates that a service animal can be a dog or a miniature horse. I am not aware of any miniature horses in the North Penn School District in our schools, but we do have service dogs, and then there are therapy dogs. And an example is that some school districts bring dogs in for comfort for kids, right? Whether it's a stressful time of the year prior to final exams, for example, or SATs or AP exams or something like that, or a traumatic event. You see districts around the country that have been through a lot, or the loss of a student or a staff member, or something. We saw recently the terrible events that were on the screen in June. They brought therapy dogs in to try to help that community heal. So we did not have a policy in place. The policy, of course, like most, outlines where the liability lies when you're bringing an animal into schools and whose responsibility it is. But we're excited for the opportunity to have dogs in schools where student allergies allow it, and it is appropriate and necessary for kids. So that's not all the time, and that's not in all spaces, but certainly we now have opened the door to incorporate dogs in our schools.
Yeah, and since these are both first readings, they are not approved yet. It's not board policy yet. It has to be read, and then there's time for a public comment, and then it will become policy at the next meeting.
Right. So what happens, we review, so PSBA, which is the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, they propose policies. They take our employee and student handbooks, and they try to take into account the way in which we do business and integrate that into their model policies. Then they give us those policies and we review them internally, right? So it might be myself, Dr. Waters, Dr. McKenna, Mrs. McGee-Heim, and our solicitor. And then we meet with the committee chair, which is Mr. Resch. And then we discuss it publicly with the full committee at a homework policy committee meeting. And then ultimately, once that committee has pushed it to the action agenda, it goes on the agenda for a first read. And that gives the community time to see the policy, review it, and offer comment. And then if we make modest changes, it can then go for final approval. But if there are substantive or significant changes, then we would bring it back for another first read. And by the way, I just got a text message. I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Monero. This community knows Kevin Monero, and he is listening to our interview this morning. And he said, "Challenge accepted. I am bringing a therapy miniature horse into school." So clearly he wasn't listening. He wasn't listening closely. That's a service animal.
Correct.
It is not a therapy miniature horse.
Not a therapy miniature horse. It'd be a service horse. Miniature horse. Yeah.
Thank you for
honestly,
listening.
It'd be interesting to see if there has been any in the state. Because every time we say that the legal definition is dog, or miniature horse, which is an interesting, wondering why it's that niche of miniature horse. There's a story behind it, or there's probably a purposeful reason why it's that. And maybe we'll get that answer for the next time. So we talked about, you brought up Dr. Megan McGee-Heim. She gave a presentation on Thursday night for the special education plan. Do you want to talk about what that is and what the legal requirements of that plan are, and why we present that, and how often does that happen?
Yeah, so we were actually due in 2021, but due to the pandemic, they postponed that deadline for all school districts who were in that phase of the cycle. So it was due last year. So if you look at the plan, it actually says 2021 to 2024, but it's really starting now, effective now. And that process really changed. The template for the plan is dramatically different than it used to be. The former template allowed for a lot more narrative. I would, for lack of better phrasing, say opinion or values and personal input. And in this case, it's very distinct questions. How do you do this? And we answer the question. And then there's another prompt. How does the North Penn School District meet the needs of blank learners? And there's a response. So it does look very different than the last plan. Our intention is in our comprehensive plan, we have a lot more room and space for us to really impart our core values and mission and vision into that document. And that's due in October. So if it seems very succinct and direct, it is. And it is actually due July 30th. We have to post it to the state, but it is able to be edited, and we're allowed to make revisions. It will then be up again, believe it or not, next spring, because of the adjustments. They want us to resubmit next spring because it was delayed a year. So Ms. McGee-Heim gave a significant presentation about the plan itself. The board did approve it, so it will be posted to PDE, but certainly still open to feedback and discussion, and we can make changes if necessary.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested in taking a look at that plan, it's the PDE plan that's up there. You could watch the overview from Megan from Thursday night on YouTube and watch the meeting, but it's still posted on the main page of the website if you want to click on that and take a look at it. It's been up there for quite some time. folks take a look. Yep. Next, talking about the school board agenda, we've talked a lot about the healthcare center. I know there's a lot of confusion around that too. When people talk about it's like we're getting in the business of opening up a clinic for the community, which is not what the healthcare center is. You want to talk about where we are on that process, and we can talk about again and just reviewing for folks what the purpose of the healthcare center is. Let's start with that. The purpose of the healthcare center for the North Penn School District, of why we're looking at that. I want to say looking at it, moving forward with it, and then where we're at in the process for that program to begin for our employees.
Right. So I am not the resident expert on all things insurance and benefits and healthcare. However, I do think I have a pretty good understanding of the impetus behind us having a healthcare center and some other school districts having healthcare centers as well. So when people say, why are we in the business of providing healthcare? My response to that would be, we are already in that business. And the reason being, we are self-insured, right? So our employees and the district contribute to our insurance, and it is a self-insured policy, right? There is a stop loss number. I'll throw a random number out there. Let's just say $300,000. So if there is a claim over $300,000, let's say you're gravely ill, you have very serious surgery or a transplant or something like that, we have an insurance policy for expenses beyond that number. Anything below that number, the district pays for our employees, our nearly 2,000 employees, right? We don't have 2,000 people on our benefits, but we pay because we are self-insured. So now this concept is we build a facility on our campus and we hire a company to provide the healthcare for us. And then we are cutting out, essentially, for lack of better phrasing, the middleman, right? We are paying for the service as opposed to any additional fees, medical charges, processing charges. We are hiring this company, Everside, to provide healthcare to our employees directly. So it actually does cut costs, obviously, a cost containment strategy for the district. And conservative estimates were that if 40% of our benefit eligible folks utilize the healthcare clinic, it could save the North Penn taxpayer $10 million in 10 years. So that's really exciting. And I think if you take a step back and understand, we pay those bills anyway. And of course, healthcare costs are through the roof. Everyone knows that. This is a way to try to contain those costs. They have simple prescriptions there in the healthcare center. Our employees would not have to go to the pharmacy. They could get their antibiotic or simple prescriptions there. There will be no opiates there in the healthcare clinic. And there's no copays for our employees. And it's super convenient. So rather than having to take a day off of work to go to your doctor, you could actually come to work and run over to the healthcare center during your prep, your lunch, or work with your principal to get over there. And hopefully it allows us to provide our teachers in front of our kids and our staff with our kids more frequently because of the convenience factor.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing with the cost savings is we're always looking to provide appropriate and quality benefits for the employees. That's important. But at the same time, we've been working on reducing costs since I've been here, and involved in all kinds of things with benefits of trying to reduce costs. So lots of folks don't see the programs that we put in place to reduce costs and provide services for employees. This is very visible because it's a physical structure as opposed to a plan or a way to change your benefit plan in order to reduce costs and increase service and quality. And of course, the convenience factor for employees. If it was the only reason was just convenience, I know we probably wouldn't be doing this, right? There's a reason. It does provide convenience for employees to be able to take care of those small appointments, but then at the same time, we're reducing costs in a significant way, which means that we're reducing those costs for the community and the cost of everything that we're doing for the North Penn School District. So I know there's sometimes confusion when you hear that like it's a clinic. It's not.
Right. Right. Exactly. And we are already paying for our employees to get care. And now we are paying the provider directly as opposed to, all the other minutia that comes with medical billing.
Yep.
So it is really the other districts that have done it. And we went to visit quite a few, whether it was virtual or physical. And to me, it's quite brilliant. This was not my idea. I wasn't on cabinet when this whole process started, but I was a part of all the interviews, the site visits, And I think it's a great thing for our staff and ultimately for the taxpayer to help contain those costs.
Excellent. So let's stay in budget and finance. So the state approved their budget. And we know typically, if you don't stay tuned in, the state budget is not usually passed on time. And this one, while not passed on time, for us, it was relatively quick that we knew in July what the state budget is. That was announced a week and a half ago. So there were increases that the state is providing to North Penn. Do you want to talk about that effect and what that means for North Penn, the state budget?
Sure. So I don't think it's a secret that most of we'll say the revenue or the money's coming into a school district comes from the taxpayer, right? Your local real estate tax, your school taxes. But we also certainly get a portion of funding from the state and from the federal government. And of our over $290 million budget last year, $11.8 million was basic education funding from the state. So that new number came out this year. And like Mr. Gilmer just alluded to, we were pleasantly surprised. This is the governor's budget when it comes to education was fairly transformative. We have an increase in 22.2% to our basic education funding. And I think again, no secret that education has been underfunded for years and years and years, and the expenses are getting higher. And yet the increases over the last, at least as long as I've been in education, don't even meet the inflation rate. So to see a basic education funding increase of 22%, it's outstanding. So in dollars, it went from last year about $11.8 million that we were getting in the North Penn School District from the state to 14.4. Again, it's under $3 million, but when you're talking an 11.8 budget, that's significant. And then our special education funding went up 3.5%, which again is not enough, but it is still stronger than it has been. So that went up from nearly 6.9 million up to 7.1. So we're thrilled with these numbers. Most districts in budgeting expected a 0% increase. We budgeted for a 3% increase, and it was a 22.2% increase. So again, in dollars, we're talking less than $3 million, but it's still, when we're starting at 11.9-ish, 11.8, 3 million is a lot of money.
Yep. And again, if you want to review, Mr. Scrocky, our CFO, does a more descriptive, in-depth look at that from the action meeting on Thursday. And I guarantee you at the next finance meeting, we'll be talking about that as well. So if you'd like to learn more about the budget and what that means overall for the year, you can certainly tune into that. The other part I wanted to talk about is, so we've been busy. There's been so much going on this month already. One of the big things we do every year with administration is our Leadership Academy, typically in July, usually 2 days. Talk about what we do there and what the purpose of that is.
Yeah, so great question. Thanks for this, Bob. Our Leadership Academy is kind of bringing all of the administrators in the district together, goal setting, team building, camaraderie building, and kind of reflecting on the year past, but also projecting and planning for the year ahead. So this being my first Leadership Academy at the helm of the ship here, I was pretty excited about the opportunity. And I, of course, wanted it to be purposeful and thoughtful and fun. So we were trying to decide, we like to try to take it off campus, even just for one of the 2 days, because when you're off campus, there are fewer disruptions, right? If we do it here at the ESC, I'm getting pulled out. Like, Todd, you got to come deal with this, or so-and-so's on the phone, or an angry person is in the office, and there's too many conflicting priorities. We can't detach and focus on the matter at hand. So we were proposing all these places in the community. Could we go here? Could we try this? Could we? And then ultimately I said, well, let's take a step back. Let's really focus on who we are as an organization and where we want to go. And we pointed to, I said, let's take a look at our core values. And two of the things we focused on was the partnerships with the community and being more culturally proficient and aware and understanding of our community. And so we chose two places which I could not have loved more. Well, day one, we ended up going to the Montgomery Township Community Center. They were so gracious in offering us their meeting space. It was awesome. We had the opportunity to utilize the gym and the track and the pickleball courts during our lunches. They had a game room. But the technology and the space itself for our meetings were just gorgeous. And it's nice to get our administrators out there and like seeing folks in the community.
And I know for me personally, I've lived in the community a long time and I'm a Tolmenson resident. I've never been in that building. Like I was never there for an event or seeing it. And I got to tell you, it was a beautiful facility. But I was just so impressed with the community engagement in that building. You know, we were there early in the morning, 7 o'clock, getting ready for our meeting. And right away there were like Zumba classes, and a senior citizen Zumba class was going on. It had like 30 people in it. And the amount of activity coming in and out of that building as a community center was really impressive. And for sure, it's a gem for the folks that live in Montgomery Township as well. So even from my standpoint, I've been around for a while and I was never there. I'm like, oh, this is an amazing place and what a great community center. So I was really thankful to be there, and it was wonderful seeing all the community and people coming and going that day. It was pretty busy that day.
Yeah, it really was. You and I were sitting there at one point out in the lobby, just watching people come and go, and it makes me think, like, could we do something like this? You know, could we provide this service to the community, not just to students? Because we pride ourselves in being a hub for the community. So I think there are opportunities there maybe in the future, Bob, but that was just wonderful. And I'm so appreciative of Montgomery Township. And they were so gracious and couldn't be more accommodating.
Let's talk day two. Yeah, let's talk day two.
Yeah. So day two, we really thought outside of the box, and we reached out to our friends at the North Penn Mosque. And Shams Huda is someone, one of the folks on the chair of the International Spring Festival, which is hosted at North Penn High School every year. I've known Shams now for close to 8 years and consider him a friend. I don't believe I have ever been in a mosque. And I just reached out to him and said, do you guys happen to have a space where we could do our meetings? And they were thrilled to have us. So unbeknownst to me, the North Penn Mosque, which is in the heart of Lansdale, they have the actual mosque, which is the place of worship, but then they have a community center, which is just a block away. And they offered us that space at their community center. And it was this huge space, all the technology that we needed. They provided us lunch, all different types of interesting foods and ethnic foods. And they just could not be more accommodating for us. Here's an example. That community center space has rows of carpet, which I assume that they utilize for prayer. But it is disrespectful to step on the carpet with your shoes on. They actually pulled that carpet up for us because they wanted everyone to be comfortable. They wanted everyone to keep their shoes on if they felt necessary. So they pulled up all these rows of carpet for our meeting, which was just so impressive to see the work that they put in. All the tables and chairs were set up. They provided us lunch free of charge because they were just being kind community partners. And then they invited us, for those who were interested, to come over to the mosque and watch their afternoon prayer. So we sat in the back. It wasn't participating in, but we sat in the back and got to watch their afternoon prayer. We saw some of our students coming in. And to just really understand, it was, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, but just to understand that they have to do that, I believe they said 5 times a day, and see the actual practice and ritual. And then we did a Q&A afterwards, and they talked to us about what they were saying, what the purpose is. And it just gave us a really strong understanding of what they were doing. I really found the question and answer, and they were very vulnerable. You know, they just kind of said, ask us anything. There's no dumb questions. Ask us anything.
Yeah.
That was really, really powerful. Go ahead, Bob. You were going to say
that was the word I was going to use. It was powerful. And, you know, from my own standpoint, I had not ever been in a mosque. You know, I've been in synagogues and all different types of churches and weddings and whatever. I've kind of been around, but I've never been in a mosque before. So it was fascinating for me to watch the prayer, to see what it is. Because frankly, the only reference I've ever had are movies of somebody dramatizing what happens in a mosque, you know, and none of that's real. It's just what somebody dramatizes, those kinds of things. So, and I thought it was amazing, you know, for my part, I'm always curious, and it was just fascinating to watch that happen. And the fact that they were so helpful, and I don't know of the man's name who was doing the Q&A, but he was just so great and gracious with those questions, because even we're vulnerable from the standpoint. I'm like, I don't want to ask a stupid question or an insulting question. Like, how could I not know this? But I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. All of us don't know. Right. and was very great with us. Like, hey, just curious about this and what you're wearing and why. And does everybody do this? Like, and it's like any other service or religion. When you go into, there's like things people do and you don't know why. I'm Catholic, so I know if someone's never been in a Catholic church, there's a lot of things that go in like, why are you doing that? And you can explain like, oh, these are the reasons behind these customs and the things we do. So they were very, very gracious with all of that. And from my standpoint, I really felt thankful that I had a better perspective of what that prayer is and what happens, so that if a student who would come to any of us and say like, hey, I have this need, could we do X, Y, and Z? I would understand what it was and why. And how to best support our students, which I just thought was an amazing, powerful 10 minutes. It was like some of the most effective 10 minutes I think we've had in a while, just to go, oh, okay. I know personally for me, it was that way. I can't speak for the entire administrative staff, but that's what most of us were talking about after that session. And what a wonderful opportunity to engage in the community and learn a little bit more. And in a way, like, how do you typically learn about that? I don't know if individually I would go knock on the door and say, hey, I have questions. Right. So having that opportunity was an amazing opportunity, I think, for most of us.
Yeah. Thank you for all of that, Bob. What you just said meant a lot to me. And I think that's so important to recognize. Like, this is about our students. Right. And I was a principal at the high school, and 7 years ago, a group of students came to me and asked if they could have a space to pray. And of course, my response was, sure, we can figure that out, right? And we would try to be accommodating for any student. I said, what is the scope of your ask? What would you? They said, we need 3-4 minutes a day at this time. Okay, sure. So we found an open classroom. We gave them their space. We set up a system for an adult to just be there to supervise the kids. But that was the extent of it. I didn't really know why. I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't understand. And now I do. And I know that we have schools where students, and in particular, our Muslim students, ask just for those 3 or 4 minutes. And now we know why. And not only that, but we build the gentleman who you were referencing, his name was Syed. Now we have more friendships and relationships, and you can call on and ask questions. And I suspect some of our administrators will reach out to Shams and Syed to ask questions throughout the year. Like, hey, help me understand this. Is this appropriate? This family asked me this question. How would you recommend I handle it? That's all about serving our community and our kids, right? This is about, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of where you're coming from or how you feel about it, we are tasked with serving our students and their families and helping them learn. And if a student feels safe and feels comfortable and feels supported, they're more likely to learn, right? That's not rocket science. It's not. So what are some small gestures, 10 minutes, like you said, that we can do to help facilitate that? And if it means when a student comes to us and they say something over the weekend, oh, I went to the mosque. I'm like, I went to the mosque. I went and I learned and I got to see it. And I really think that's, pretty special what you do there. And just that small tidbit can help to build a relationship with a student, make them feel more safe and supported. So I'm thrilled. We kind of reflected afterwards, and a couple of our administrators were emotional. Like, one person said to me after, that was a little uncomfortable for me, but what we ask some of our kids to do in school is uncomfortable for them every day, because it's not their culture to do certain things. And so our 10 minutes is absolutely worth it to understand and appreciate everything. So it was a great start. I want to try to be purposeful where we have these meetings and try to learn from all kinds of cultures in our community and partner with them. If you're listening and you are a community partner or would like to be, please reach out, because we would love to take this show on the road and just get to know our greater community a little bit better.
Great transition. Let's talk about show on the road. So
I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but you have your 100-day plan. We're 25 days into the 100 days. Talk about the community outreach and what you're working on, so folks can come and meet you in person and provide feedback and be able to have these kinds of conversations with you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bob. So a couple things. One, I have a meeting. I'm not going to divulge any location yet, but I do have a meeting with a local vendor right in the heart of Lansdale that might involve caffeine and coffee to see if maybe we could set something up to be there a couple hours a month just to sit down and have coffee with folks. If they want to come in and chat or just sit down and build a relationship, or if there's something in particular on their minds. I'm also meeting with many of our local legislators this week and next. Representative Hambridge, Representative Stevens, Senator Collette, Senator Malagari. So I'm busy. I'm taking my show on the road to try to build those relationships in the community. But then I also want to create avenues and entry points for families. So not just to come and have a cup of coffee with me, but maybe virtual conversations. Maybe I can have open office hours. Some folks might just want a one-on-one conversation. Others might want to just come and listen to like a fishbowl opportunity. So I'm, meeting with a group of 10 parents, and others just come and listen. Or you and I could work together. We could stream such conversations, So I want to be accessible. It is my responsibility to serve this community. And I don't think I can do that well if I'm not willing to sit down with folks and just listen and talk with them. Of course, every opportunity, my expectation would be that we are civil, we are student-centered and student-minded, to try to, whatever it takes to best serve the kids. That's what it's all about.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. So a couple of events coming up. I don't know if you have the dates in there, but talking about parents and trying to get used to coming into the North Penn School District here. K-Day is coming up for our new kindergarten parents, class 2035. That's August 9th. August 9th and August 18th, 8:30 and 10. So I'll be at North Penn High School. Come on in and get your kindergarten students, get comfortable on a bus, learn the school rules. We have safety video, and you get to meet some of the bus drivers and what it's going to be like for you. So that's a big thing for our kindergarten students coming up. Actually, we'll probably see a lot today because it's the first day of Chromebook pickup for kindergarten students. It starts today as well here at North Penn High School in the senior cafeteria. And I don't know if you want to give the shout out. It's on the website if people are paying attention of this is the big question every year. When am I going to find out who my teacher is or what my schedule is? Do you know the week it's supposed to come out? We don't have a date and time yet, but we have the week.
It is the week before school starts, right? So it is the week of August 22nd.
Big day.
All right. Schedules will be released. You can find out who your teacher is, find out if your friends are in your classes. What lunch do you have at the secondary level? Right. It's a big day. I remember it being a big day. My children, my wife works in the school district where my children go, so she may or may not have checked their schedules. It is not North Penn, but my kids found out this weekend who they have for their teachers. And
good change. That's the reason we don't release so early, because we still have people registering for school. The numbers change right up. Numbers are always changing, but right up, it's always interesting. We do have folks that may move into the community. We do have like that week before school starts where we do have sometimes folks say like, oh, I should probably register my kid for school because they're not yet. So if you haven't registered yet, you're new to the community, or you have a kindergarten student, you're not registered yet, go to the website. We have it right there on the main page. Make sure you register for kindergarten if you haven't already. And that way, it just makes it easier for you when you're coming into the school system. We have lots of information and parent nights. There's a whole lot of information on the website for our new kindergarten parents as well. Just go to for families and kindergarten information. You can see all the parent sessions we've had and tips to get ready for school. Frankly, that's where you're going for everything right now is the website. And that's going to give you all the updates of things coming up. So, Dr. Bauer, that'll wrap up our time here this morning. Any final thoughts for this hot July 25th day?
No, I mean, the rumor is we could actually get these water droplets falling from the sky this evening.
Actual rain is going to happen?
Real rain, hopefully bring the temperature down a little bit. It is hot out there. I hope everyone can stay healthy and cool. But no, we're about a month away from, actually a month from today, our teachers return, August 25th. And somebody said to me, August is the Sunday of the summer. Right. And I was like, well, but to me, it builds, right? Like June and July. And then you get to a point where you're like, all right, I'm ready. Like bring the heartbeat back. Kids. Yep. Yeah. We need the staff. We need the kids. This is what it's all about. And this is why you get into education. So I'm excited for the start of the school year. I think it's going to be a great year. Let's hope it can be far closer to normal than the last 2 years have been. And I'm excited to work with folks and continue to make North Penn the best place it can be. All right. Lots of information to come. We'll have another one of these updates in August. And at that point, we're going to be right on the cusp of starting showtime. We'll have way more information coming forward. So Dr. Bauer, thanks again so much for taking this time. Again, you can check this out on Facebook at Play Again if you're already here. We'll be posting these things to YouTube if you want to watch them again. That's it for now. We hope everybody stays cool and or dry later today. Take care, Dr. Bauer. Bye, everybody.